Good evening. How's it going? Happy Sunday night. Happy St. Patrick's Day. It's been a little while. Since we've had this show on. I'm super grateful for the opportunity to do this again. I guess what can I say? It's just been a busy couple months. So we had a baby back in December. I think all of you know who are practicing orthodontists that it gets a little busy. And so I've been kind of caught up with some other things. I'm excited to be back. I think St. Patrick's Day is a great time to be back. Some of you have joked with me about having so many redheads on the show. I think that's unintentional, but it seemed perfect to have someone who has sort of a strawberry blonde hair for tonight's St. Patrick's Day episode. I do want to start by thanking a couple people for making this show possible. That's going to be my wife, Anna, who is downstairs right now feeding our child, who just put our 3 children to bed, and who helped me come up with green beer for tonight's show. And so I absolutely could not do this without her. She's fabulous, very hard worker. We've just recently had some things happen that have caused her to come back in the office more. And so for any of you who have a spouse or a close loved one who help you with your practice or with your business or with your life or whatever, you know how important they are to you. And Anna is that person for me. So love you, Anna. Thank you very much. I also want to thank Neon Canvas. Neon Canvas I'm repping tonight with my pen. It has green in it. That is our logo, and you may or may not know that I'm a co-owner of Neon Canvas. I say that as a disclosure, but also I say that this show is not possible without them, the work that they put into this, helping make everything possible. So thanks to Alex and the team at Neon Canvas. I'd, of course, like to thank you for tuning in. Obviously, if no one was watching, this show wouldn't happen. So thanks for tuning in, whether it's live or it's later on. All right, and as a special way of saying thank you, tonight the theme again will be St. Patrick's Day. I want to offer you a traditional Irish blessing. So any of you out there who are Irish, and in fact, if there is an Irish orthodontist out there, or 2 or 3, please comment in, let me know. I don't know if we have anyone from Ireland or not, but I want to give you this traditional Irish blessing to those of you who are watching. You may have heard it before, and it goes, "May your pockets be heavy and your heart be light. May good luck pursue you each morning and night." So there you go. Thomas, are you Irish? You're not Irish. I don't know what you are, Thomas, but that sounds terrible. You have something going on with your voice, some sort of brogue. Speaking of luck, we are all in luck because tonight we have a guest I'm very excited about. This is Dr. Heather Hopkins. Heather is tremendous. Thomas is British. That's close enough. Heather is honestly a tremendous person, a person I've been impressed with for very many years, and in reading through her answers, I'm even more impressed. She stays extremely busy, and the answers that she shared with us are really good, and I think you're going to learn a ton from tonight's show. We're going to talk about how to partner with GPs and pediatric dentists, how digital workflow, indirect bonding, and aligners have helped Heather to see a busy schedule every day in just 6-hour shifts. So she doesn't do a lunch break. We'll talk about that. And finally, we're going to look at the challenges of being a millennial mom who works. But first, before we start, it's been a while. Here's our theme song. All right, so there's a few of you on here tonight. Of course, feel free to comment in and let me know how you're doing. I did not come up with a drinking game for tonight. I thought it might be nice to come up with something that you would drink every time we would say something, but I did not, because if you're at home on a Sunday night and not out for St. Patrick's Day, you're probably not drinking. That's my thought. I do want to have an opening segment. Sometimes we'll do these, sometimes we won't. But for tonight, we are going to have a short one. We're going to talk a little bit about Google reviews. And I guess I would say that my first opportunity to speak or to share in the orthodontic world was on digital marketing. I'm still really invested in that, still really interested in that. I already talked about Neon Canvas. But I do want to share with you something about Google reviews. What I would say first off is Google reviews are super valuable. I think that is one of the key ways that people establish who they want to see as an orthodontist. I think if you have no Google reviews, that's a problem. Certainly if you have a lot of negative reviews, that can be hugely destructive to someone wanting to come see you. So what I would say is I think a reasonable high number of Google reviews is extremely valuable, and I would say even invaluable. Now, I've seen a developing trend, though, in companies who are charging specifically to sort of gamify getting reviews. And for those of you who have done that and that's worked for you, that's fantastic. As I've alluded to a couple times now, I own a company that charges people to do digital marketing work, and so I don't think it's the end of the world to pay someone for Google reviews, but I guess I would say that there's another way to do that. And I've said this since day one about digital marketing, about blogging or running your social media, is that you can do this yourself. That's how I started right out of school. Was I worked with a company to make my website, and I did a lot of the work myself. Of course, as you get busier, you do oftentimes need someone to come in and help you with that work. And I think Google reviews is one of those things that you can get some help with, but it's also like not super complicated. And so I think the best way to get reviews is not to necessarily use an app or a company or something like that to get the reviews for you. I think that the challenge there is you might actually end up getting some negative reviews you weren't hoping for if you send it out to too wide an audience. I think the best way to do it is just to simply approach someone and ask them for a review. Others have come before me to explain this better than I think I can. Adobe's done a great job with this. Cole Johnson does a great job in Illiticula. I've heard them speak on it, all three of those, and I'm sure many others. But here's what we do. We ask for it. Now, if I ask for it, I have to then open their phone and go to the Google Maps app, pull it open, and kind of show them. There is a simpler way to do that now. First thing you do is you get them off of Wi-Fi. If they're connected to your IP too many times, those reviews will get hidden. And so you want to have them on their own cellular. And here's what we have created. So this is one that Neon Canvas is helping me make. You can see it's very simple and has a QR code. Here's one that I had made in the past just to show you kind of like a little bit difference here where it has like a photo and that sort of thing. Nothing crazy. And yes, I get it. The QR code is one of those things that really went out of style. But what has changed about the QR code is that now the iPhone, if you open it up and you point a camera at it, it will automatically pull up the link and they can click on it and they go straight to it. And so I will leave these links in the TDO page later after this interview. But there's a few things you can do. You can create a review link. It's very simple. For if you have one location, just the one location. If you have multiple, you can do it for multiple. You're going to create a QR code, which is free. Both of these steps are free. And then for iPhone users, you just say, hey, just point your camera at it. It'll bring the link up, and then it'll take them right to the review section. For Android, there's a couple other steps. I'll share that when I post it. And then you just have either like a business card sized or like an 8.5 by 11 sheet printed up. And we have them laminated. And so on debond days, I think that's the best time to get reviews. You just have your team with them, and you just remind them, hey, we need to get some reviews today, and you get it done. So that is basically it. Like I said, I will share that information. Hopefully that will be helpful to you on getting you some other reviews. It's very easy in a week if you're motivated to get 15 or even 20 reviews, just having some sort of system in place, having it laminated in different places in the office. There's other things we can talk about, but I'll leave that there for you for tonight. Hopefully that's helpful to you. I'm going to start. Heather, if you want to go ahead and request to join in, and I'm going to read Dr. Heather Hopkins' bio. Dr. Heather Hopkins started her career in Beverly Hills, where she was an orthodontist to the stars, working with celebrities such as Katy Perry and Jack Black. She also appeared on several TV shows, including The Doxers and Extra. Here's Heather. Let's go ahead and... We'll see if she gets joined in here. So Heather's time in Hollywood provided extensive training in customized and aesthetic. There she is. Hey, Heather, how are you doing? Can you hear me?
Hey, how
Awesome.
are you guys doing? Yes, I got you.
Fantastic. Well, we have survived another bringing a guest in. So let me finish the bio, and then we'll chat real quick. Her time in Hollywood provided extensive training in customized and aesthetic treatment options. She's an expert in aesthetic orthodontics, and she lectures on aligners and lingual orthodontics to orthodontists all over the world. She loves outdoor activities, particularly running. In fact, I read this on your website. You have finished 25 total full and half marathons. That is 25 more than I have finished, and or even attempted. And she loves music of all kinds. Heather now practices in Lexington, which is outside of Columbia in South Carolina, in a multi-specialty practice called Palmetto Smiles. Heather, thanks for being on the show.
Thank you so much for having me. Can you guys hear me okay? Am I good?
Yeah, I got you.
Okay.
It looks
All right,
awesome. I
cool.
love the split
Well,
screen. It's always a good time. And you have green on.
yes,
What are you repping tonight?
I do. Yeah, so no, welcome into my home on a Sunday evening. So this is what I've been wearing all day at St. Patrick's Day. So I have my green t-shirt on. It happens to be an Avett Brothers t-shirt. We're a big fan of theirs. Like you were saying, we're really into music, and so they're a band that we followed quite a bit, and we've traveled all over the country to see them. Me and my husband are actually, if you can't see quite above my head there, but there's actually Avett Brother quote framed above my head in our room here. So
Nice.
we are, yeah, so we like to follow them around. So I thought I'd rep with my green and some things that I do outside of the world of orthodontics.
Fantastic. So this is, I saw that you brought up the Avett Brothers. Actually, my one claim to fame as a musician was opening for the Avett Brothers in Searcy, Arkansas, 2011. I got to eat craft service with them. I had a friend that took them to Walmart in Searcy. But I say that with a huge asterisk because it was a music festival. I think we played at, I like to think maybe 3:30 in the afternoon. They were on at 9. So opening, sort of. We played on the same day on the same stage.
Whatever.
Yeah, but it was kind of cool to talk to them.
You opened with the Avett Brothers. Now I feel like I kind of like need to come to you play. Like I need to see you live.
We were not as good as the Avett Brothers, that's for sure. But we got to stand on the side of the stage and kind of dance off, and so we felt important for about 17 minutes, and that was cool. But great band. I'm a huge fan of theirs as well. So it's actually been a few months. You came to Memphis to do an Invisalign day. Was unable to make the day, but I had dinner with you and Kevin and Spencer, and I'd actually had a really bad day.
You did, yeah. It's not the best. We all have them, right?
It was just one of those days I was headed to dinner. I think I was headed to a baseball game afterwards, and I guess the short version was it had some HR issues, and so anyway, there's actually I posted a couple weeks ago about having a tough week, and that was really part of what was going on. And I don't get into all the details, but just to say that it was obvious the response to that post that a lot of us deal with tremendous stress in and around our teams. And it's true that we spend, I'd say sadly, it's not sadly, it's just the reality is we spend more time with our teams than we do with our families a lot of times. And I treat my team as family, but business relationships are not like family. All right, so if your brother kind of screws you over, your uncle, wrecks your car or something, you get over it.
You still see them. They're not going away, right? Like they're still part of your family.
But with business relationships, when they end, and it's like hitting a brick wall at 100 miles per hour. So it's just hard for me to kind of remedy and deal with, and it's always difficult. And so we had one of those end, and it was really stressful. But that day was kind of like the precursor to that. And so you got to see me pretty flustered for sure.
I did, and that's one of the things, like I want to talk about tonight is that it's really important to have people in your life who kind of understand our day-to-day. It's a unique thing. We come in contact with a lot of people, and we all are perfectionists, and we want everything to go well, and we believe in customer service. And so it's hard when it just takes that one person, right? We can see 100 patients in a day, have contact with at least 200 people plus our staff, and then our own personal families. And it just takes that one person. That one person can ruin your whole day. And that's hard. It's a hard thing to kind of like get over and learn how to deal with. And that's something that I feel like I've really worked hard on in my evolution in private practice, is just having those people in my life who help kind of, help with my mental sanity, right? Those people who help you make it through your day. That's a big deal. I feel like it's undervalued a lot of times. But so I know that it was a rough day for you, and I know we had kind of talked a few times, and so it sounds like it worked out for the best, even though it's a hard thing at the moment. It's going to be best in the long run,
I think so. Glenn actually had a little blog post, I don't know if you read it, about Odell Beckham Jr., wide receiver for the Giants, was traded over to Cleveland. I think they paid him $90 million for 5 years, and they traded him after a year.
Not too
shabby. So it's good for Odell Beckham. And he's one of the best wide receivers, but he is admittedly a diva, has been difficult for that team. And so Glenn had a really great post. I recommend you go read it. It's an Orthopreneurs about team members. And that wasn't the situation with this situation. Things are not a good fit for all kinds of different reasons. And I always wish people the best when things don't work out. But I think it was a great kind of take on that. Something we all deal with, where we feel kind of imprisoned to someone in our team that maybe creates drama. And you need to free yourself from that if you can, because
you do 100%.
As soon as it happens, everyone feels like 100%. A huge release and things like that. So anyway, let's jump in. We got a ton of stuff. I'll say that your answers, I'm always so impressed with what people come up with and the time that goes into this. I think I say on there, like, if this will take you like 15, 20 minutes, it takes a lot longer than that. So thanks for the time you put into this. But let's jump in. Tell me a little bit about your family to kick off.
Okay, well, so yeah, I met my husband when I was in college. I was a freshman, he was a senior, and I met him about a month into my freshman year. So that was about 20 years ago, and things have been working out pretty well ever since. So you figure it's 20 years ago that I met him, about 20 plus years of education between the two of us. We've lived in 4 different states now, and now we have 2 kids. So it's been definitely an evolution, but it's been great. And so we have a 5-year-old and a 3-year-old. My son just actually turned 3 2 weeks ago.
Right.
So yeah, I mean, you guys are crazy. Like you're way crazier than me. I mean, I can't even get to the cold level
Yeah.
crazy, but two is good for us. Like we have a boy, we have a girl, keeps us really busy, and so that's been a good thing. And that's one of the things that I feel like I learned a few years ago. I went to an MKS meeting actually about 3 years ago, and we're always very focused, like very driven, like on where we're going. It's always about the next test, about the next exam, what school do we have to get into, boards, like what interviews we have to do, and then you get to a point where it's like, okay, well, we're here, but we're still just like so focused and we're so driven and we just keep going. And I'll never forget being at that MKS, I don't know, it was maybe like 3 years ago, and talking to a lot of people, and they're like, it's okay to like step back and enjoy it for a minute. Like we worked really hard to get here. Like take a break, like enjoy where you are for a minute. And that really kind of was a kind of an epiphany moment for me. And so after that point, like we literally went to Disney 3 weeks later for my daughter's birthday, like planned it spur of the moment. And so now me and my husband every year we do a 1 week overseas with our kids. And then we do a planned family vacation for 1 week so it's like that way our entire staff, because trying to plan between my staff, so my husband's an orthopedic surgeon. So between his staff, my staff, childcare, everything, it's kind of it's a production to plan. So now we have like 2 weeks set a year where we are definitely going to be out traveling. Last year we went to Peru. We love going to national parks. I saw where you're going to Yellowstone.
Yeah, plan on it.
So Yellowstone, yes, I think that's amazing, like with kids. And so we like to do national parks, those kinds of things. We try and make time to actually like enjoy what we've worked so hard for, and not just keep working so hard all the time, like without any direction.
Yeah, sure. Absolutely. That's actually been an increasing focus for me too. And I think it's so many years to get where we're at, and then you get out and you're focused on paying off debt or just succeeding for success, for being successful's sake or whatever. There's I can go down like a whole rabbit hole on this, but there's a book called The Happiness Advantage, and it talks about how we put success on the horizon. And the problem is that we're always headed towards the horizon. We never reach success, so we never celebrate those things. And there's all kinds of research on when you're stressed and you're overly stressed, you're never going to be as happy. And in fact, when you're happier first, you'll be more efficient at what you do as a doctor or as an orthodontist. So that's all that sort of lifetime conversation and lifestyle, I should say, not Lifetime. That's a channel that has movies on it. Lifestyle conversation is something I'm really getting into, and something that I want to speak about. I know I'll never be like the world's best clinical orthodontist and speaker even, but I like to think maybe I can get into some of these things and share them with people, because I think it's the most important thing is to develop community.
Yeah, no, I mean, I'd say like we are all on the same journey, right? Like we all like worked so hard to kind of get where we're going, and it's just sometimes I joke with people sometimes, if you've hit your peak in life yet or not, and it's like, well, if you haven't, then like what is that? Like what are you still striving for? Like what goals are you trying to achieve, and when are you going to be happy? And I think it's something that a lot of us struggle with, because we all we're the top of our class, we all we're very driven, and then now we're here, we have it. And it's just really important to be able to enjoy it in the moment. And that's something that I know I've struggled with, and I'm sure a lot of other people struggle with, is enjoying what we've worked so hard to achieve, and not just constantly setting the bar higher and higher and higher to where we don't ever have a moment where we're like, oh, wow, like this is pretty good. Like I did it. Like, nice. I like it.
So if you're out there watching, take 5 seconds and be grateful, be excited for where you are. So there you go.
Exactly.
All right. So let's shift into this. Your practice history is, I would say, in the number of years that it's existed, it's more interesting than almost anyone I've talked to. You've been everywhere and done everything. And while you're talking about the celebrities, I'm going to show some photos, but kind of give me your quick practice history. And as you do that, I'll show a photo of you and Jack Black. And that's amazing.
Okay.
Look at that. Look at that.
All right. So as I mentioned, my husband's an orthopedic surgeon. So I finished my training before he did, and we had to figure out okay, so we're gonna go someplace for him to finish his training. So we went out to LA. I sent out hundreds of letters to everyone I could imagine, and I got one response from Patrick Turley. Actually, Dr. Patrick Turley.
Thanks, Patrick.
Amazing guy. Invited me to go to lunch, and he was like, hey, just wanted to welcome you to the area. Don't have any jobs for you. Don't know what you're going to do, but good luck with that. And so, I kind of joked I was going to be the most highly educated waiter in LA, if that's what I had to do. We were moving there, so it was happening. And just through some connections, a friend of a friend of a friend happened to know someone who worked in Beverly Hills who had a high-end practice. And so I just emailed them directly, and ended up meeting with them. And so I worked out there for a few years. And as you can imagine, so just think about when you first got a residency and how scary that was. It was, a little stressful, right, for all of us.
Mm-hmm.
And just imagine being your first week out of residency and being in a high-end practice in Beverly Hills and being called down the hall to come do an exam on a very high-profile family, and like a pan being held up in front of you, and they're like, what would you do in the situation? And literally in this situation, it was like the kid needed an aunt, right? But like all I could think is I'm there looking at the room and I'm looking at this family, like a very high profile celebrity family, looking at all of them in the room, and they're all like staring at me, and I was like, appliance, definitely an appliance. And they're like, okay. He's like, okay, well, what kind of an appliance that's gonna fix this problem. That's what we're gonna do. So it's really overwhelming when you first get out of school. You're so used to, we have years and years of training of where we have someone, you turn around and they're like, I think I'm going to power chain this. And you turn around and someone's like, yeah, power chain it. That sounds great. You're doing the right thing. And then when you get out in the real world and you turn around and you're like, oh wait, no, it's just me. Like there's nobody else here. And to do so in such a high profile setting was a very, very eye-opening experience and very challenging for me. It was a good lesson in what I call like extreme ownership, of just learning to take extreme ownership of all of your actions, and that at the end of the day, you really have to evaluate your role in everything that happens around you. And so it was a great learning experience. Very high stress. People make their livelihood off of how they look out there, and my practice was limited to lingual and aligners for the most part. So people always ask me how I learned so much about that. And when I, interviewed for that position and I received that position, I called up, it was like phone a friend, called up any and everyone I knew who had any aligner experience, any lingual experience. And I was like, hi, I'd like to be your new best friend. Could I come to your office like for a week, a month, like whatever, like as long as you'll have me, could I please come? I signed up for every CE class. I really tried to put my 10,000 hours in. And it's different, it's a different way of thinking. And so it was a really stressful experience, but it was, at the end of the day, I learned so much from it. I got to have a lot of really cool, unique experiences, worked with a lot of celebrities, got to be on TV. We got like VIP tickets to Coachella and got to hang out with Paul McCartney and Usher, like hanging out at the bar, Katy Perry. Yeah.
I had to correct you on one thing. You didn't just do aligners and lingual. You did metal and headgear.
I did headgear.
So you returned to your roots for one case.
Yeah.
That's amazing.
I did. So it was such a surreal experience because it's not anything that I ever like envisioned for myself. And it was just an amazing opportunity that I feel really fortunate to have had. They're celebrities and it was cool, but like at the end of the day, like they're people and they're real people, and it's some of them were very, very, very cool. So it was a great experience. I got to learn a lot about practice management. Being on the West Coast, I got exposed to a lot of corporate dental out there. I mean, I worked for a GP who had 7 other GPs under him. I also I started the entire orthodontic department there as first orthodontist. And then he was bringing in an endodontist once a week, so I kind of got exposed to that multi-specialty model and what that looked like. I said, as well as kind of getting to see, Western and Pacific and Aspen and all those corporate that were taking hold out there. So it gave me a really a very eye-opening, again, experience from Kentucky as to what was going on in our profession and what kind of things, the trends that were to come.
For sure, yeah. And so I know you did the thing with a VC group. Now you're in South Carolina, and it's like a multi-specialty thing. I guess tell me very quickly about where you are right now in South Carolina, what the makeup of that is, because I think that's very interesting. If I'm a resident, or even if I'm a doctor and I'm in a situation I just don't love, and I'm thinking, well, what do I want to do? And we'll get to that here in a second, but tell me about this practice setup, and then we'll talk a little bit more about what you see as kind of different options right now.
Yeah, so and I think it's kind of important to just kind of touch on, like, so I came to South Carolina and I was an associate. It was supposed to be, a buy-in option at the end, and I was an associate, and we both agreed that I was not necessarily meant to be an associate long-term. We agreed that it's not quite my personality. But then he also, realized that he wasn't quite ready to sell. So I had that experience of learning that what it looks like to have an associate come into your practice and how that can grow your practice, just because it allows you to focus on your business, allows you to focus on your new patients. And it really allowed, him to really grow the practice overall. And so at the end of the day, like, why would you sell one, right? Like, you could bring in another associate and you could continue that model. It made total business sense as to why he did that. And so, again, another eye-opening experience for me as to the profession and what changes are out there, and how we are so profitable as a profession that it makes it harder for the younger generation to come in and buy us, because then you get so big because you have so many associates who buys us, private equity groups and corporate comes in and buys us. So I had that, and then I had ended up buying a location on my own, and I had the experience kind of like you. It was an orthodontist passed away very suddenly, and so it was a very, very small practice. He was an older gentleman, and I had to kind of start from scratch, like build all my own systems. As you know, that's a different experience. Like, when you have to do that, it's kind of like, I wish I would have been taking more notes when I was an associate on like how they did sterilization.
So that wouldn't have helped me, I guess, because at the time I felt so sorry for myself because I had nowhere to look and had no experience. But the reality is, until you're like behind the wheel, it doesn't really matter how much you watch someone drive, I think. So
yeah. No, I definitely was like kicking myself. Like, I should have taken better notes when I was there. But, it's really easy to take those things for granted, right? And so then I learned that, like, how hard those things are to develop on your own. And I was, my daughter was 18 months old, and I was pregnant with our son. Again, my husband's a surgeon. He works about 60 hours a week. So when I looked back at, why I left LA and, why I became an orthodontist in the first place, it's because I really wanted that family work-life balance. Like, I wanted to be able to, I don't want someone else to raise my kids. I want to be there. I want to be there for like the, days at school. I volunteered, Thanksgiving and Valentine's Day. Like, I want to be a part of that. That's very important to me. And so when I looked at, my options, which we'll get to in a second, of like what I feel like the options are, I really had to choose something that I felt like was better for my work, family life balance. And so for me, that was going into a multi-specialty practice where I had partners. And so I'm in a practice where it's TDO, Ortho, GP. We are all partners in the practice. And, I think the fact that I'm the only ortho in the practice definitely works for me and my personality. Some people might like having a lot of orthos in their practice. For me personally, I like the fact that I'm the only ortho there. And it gives me control over that section of the practice. But yet I see patients 3 days a week. But yet my staff's there 5 days a week. And I know it's a challenge if you want to work, a lot of people out there want to work fewer days, but staff need a full-time job. And so that's one of the advantages, overall our overhead's lower than you would expect from a lot of other practices, because of the fact that we combine together and we are kind of like our own, it's one location, so we're not like a DSO, but the fact that we have the 3 specialties and the 4 doctors, it allows us kind of buying power. And so it can decrease a lot of our cost. And just as I said, like, being open 5 days a week is a definite advantage. And having the in-house referrals, obviously, is a huge advantage as well. Yeah,
sure. A ton to unpack there. I'll kind of, I guess, move on. I mean, there's a million questions about ortho, GP, pedo, and all that. Obviously, I'm involved to some degree, and mine's a little different. I'm not officially involved. I'm next door, and so have sort of a gentleman's agreement, or that we'll share patients and things that could fall apart. So I think actually owning into it is maybe that's sort of like the holy grail. And there could be issues there too, but it sounds like you figured it out and you kind of landed on what's the right thing for you. But having had this, really, I mean, honestly, at your age, I don't know if as many people, if there's anyone else that's been involved in corporate, in high-end boutique, you've been involved in, kind of a de novo, from scratch start, you now are in a multi-specialty. What other models do you see? What are the ones you feel like what are going to allow you to succeed, I guess, if you're out there trying to plan your model?
Yeah. So again, I mean, I'm not an expert. I always say I've never taken a business class in my life. I did biochemistry, molecular biology. I'm as nerdy as they come. So I just have seen the experiences that I've had, and then my husband being in medicine, and kind of watching that model as it has unfolded. I do think that you can go boutique. I think that you can be, that does not mean small. That means niche. You can have a really strong branding. You can be affiliated with a school or a certain program. You can have you're the digital practice in town. You're the adult practice in town. Like, whatever it is, you have your niche, like your boutique. And that can work. That can definitely work. I do think that you can go big. And that was one of the things that I considered. Like I said, when I was pregnant and I had my daughter, it was 18 months old. And I was like, well, my plan was to go big. You know, I can go big. I can have my own DSO. I can buy like my own pedo. I can buy my own ortho offices. And this is what I think is going to succeed. But for me personally, in my situation, for my personal life, that was just not what I felt like was appropriate or what was going to make me happy. But I do think that's a very viable model and a very smart way to go, is to have multiple locations, whether it's with multiple orthodontists or just yourself and then a bunch of associates, or whether it's ortho offices and then you buy up pedo, which is a whole different conversation of how you do ortho and bring in pedo versus pedo bringing in ortho. Or I think that you can go multi-specialty, which is the way I decided to go. Or I think you're going to end up working for corporate. Yeah. I just think that the 1 to 3 location orthodontist in the next 5 years is going to be kind of gobbled up by DSOs or corporations. If you look at the medical model, again, my husband, he's owned by a hospital. He used to be private practice. They're owned by a hospital. How many doctors do you see that have a standalone private practice office?
Not many.
You just don't see that many, right? And I figure we're like a 10-year lag behind medicine. So it's coming, it's changing. I don't have all the answers. I think my model works for me and it works for now, but I think it's obviously an evolving process.
For sure. Good things to think about. Well, we're going to shift. That ended up a little dire. We're like, well, this practice that you have is not going to work out, but I think it's reality. But
there's a lot of opportunity, right? Like, no, but it's not that. So, I mean, look at me. Okay. So if I can go to Beverly Hills, and I can find a job and I can survive there, and then I can work, be an associate, and I can have my own, and I can, manage to negotiate a multi-specialty deal. The idea is that you just have to be aware of what's going on and figure out what's going to work for you best in your life. And I think that all of us could do it. And there's not one answer. Right. There's a lot of answers that work. And I think that it's just a matter of paying attention to what's going to work for you and what's going to work in your area.
And it may have been the case at some point in the golden era of orthodontics, whenever that was, that things were handed to you and that things were easy. But I think that's the true reality is nothing's going to be handed to you. You're going to have to work really hard for it. And if just because you were first in your class, you may have been, I was not, but just because, you're first in your class, you're summa cum laude or whatever it was, a National Merit Scholarship finalist or whatever, it doesn't mean anything when you get out into the world. And it is certainly more about relationships and strategy and a little bit of luck. And I mean, luck is never just luck. Luck comes from being prepared and working hard so that when opportunity arises, you can seize it. So
exactly.
All right, so here's what I'm going to do, if that's okay. I was unable to get a Guinness. Did you get a Guinness? Did you get one, or did you not have it? It's okay if you don't.
Do I have one? I have a whole bunch of beers. I do not have a Guinness right now.
I'm making green beer right now, and so I have a little bit of food coloring, and we will have some green beer here in just a second. So if you do not drink, look away. Okay. This is in a 3M glass from a meeting I spoke at. So thank you to 3M. Great job, guys.
Oh, nice.
Just a little plug. They happened to give me a
good plug. That's a good
beer
plug.
Glass.
You slid that right in there. I was impressed.
Well, that wasn't like, whatever, but it's a cool mug. And then green beer. So here we go. It's very good. My teeth are now going to be green. So the reason I bring it up, and you've got your water, that's very responsible. It is a work day tomorrow. I'm going to play some St. Patrick's Day trivia with you. So I have a couple things. I need to get my song going. So here's our song.
Okay.
There we go. And then I need to get my little mask going if I can find it.
I was going to ask you, did you write your theme song?
Did I write it? No, I did not write it. That is from a royalty-free site that we bought that from. So, all right, so.
Gotcha. Right, I know you drum. So, okay, well, I didn't want to be left out.
Yeah.
So
oh, there you go. Okay. Fantastic. Look at you. You can hardly tell which one's real and which one's fake.
I was really sad when I couldn't have my own filter, so there we go.
I'm so glad you did that. All right, so these are St. Patrick's Day trivia questions. Here's what I want people to do out there, because I want this to be interactive. Why don't you answer and be honest, keep up your score, and see if you can beat Heather on this St. Patrick's Day trivia. This is from the AARP. Okay, so I just took this quiz.
Okay.
So thank you to the AARP. for any of our listeners out there who are members of the AARP, you should send them a thank you email. So we're going to do 5 questions right now. We'll do 5 questions later, and we'll just see how it goes. Don't be too sad if you don't know the answers to these. All right, so the first one is, who was St. Patrick? This is going to be multiple choice, 4 choices. Was he a resident of Britain who was captured and enslaved in Ireland and then went on to convert thousands of Irish people to Christianity? B, an Irish monk who banished snakes from Ireland when they began destroying the potato crops? C, a British sailor who was captured by Irish pirates and converted them to Christianity before they made him walk the plank? Or D, an Irish monk who saved his countrymen by warning them of a British invasion after receiving a vision from God of a great battle? Okay, so A.
A.
Is that what your guess is? Okay,
A,
you knew
yeah.
it. Okay, yes, St. Patrick. He was not even Irish. That's crazy to me. He was actually
No, he
British,
was not.
just like Heather. I don't know what I am. I have red here, so everyone assumes I'm Irish. I think I'm a mixture of a lot of stuff, but let's say I'm Irish for tonight. All right, so what do historians believe? That's number 1. That was good. You got one right. What do historians believe was St. Patrick's name at birth? Is it A, Trevet Batilde, B, Alden Becket, C, Maewyn Suckett, or D, Merwin McGeet? Does anyone out there know?
C, Maewyn. It's C,
Did you
Maewyn.
research this? You're doing well. Yes, it is. It is.
No,
Here, I got to do.
so I have it, like, my brother's name is Patrick, so St. Patrick's Day was always a big deal around my house.
Okay.
So, you know.
Yeah, all right. Well,
I have that going in my face.
yeah, so it's actually Maewyn Suckett or Suckett. Well, I don't know about that, but he took the name Patrick when he became a priest. All right, you're doing very well. 2 out of 2. Is anyone beating Heather right now? We couldn't be beating her. Are you tied with Heather? All right, so where and when was the first St. Patty's Day parade in the United States? First St. Patty's Day parade, was it in Boston in 1809, Boston in 1911, New York in 1762, or Providence, Rhode Island in 1898?
It was in Boston.
In 1809 or 1911?
I feel like it was earlier than that. I feel like it was in, okay, so I'm going to go with the 1800s because I feel like it was actually a little earlier.
Okay, well, you'll have to take it with the AARP.
Boston,
According to the AARP, it is New
Okay.
York in 1762.
The very first parade?
I fact-checked this. I actually saw it multiple places, New York, but if that's wrong, you can correct and we can get bonus credit to you later. The first parade in St. Patrick's honor was...
All right, someone fact-checked me out
We'll fact-checked it. I think I actually saw where some site said Boston, but we're going to go with New York because we trust the AARP. If you can't trust them, who can you trust? But it was a gathering of Irish soldiers in the British Army that paraded down Lower Broadway in New York to celebrate their homeland. All right, 2 more questions. I'm giving you 2 for 3 at this point. So why all the green shamrocks? It's a good question. And I'm wearing some green shamrocks, if you can't see them. A, St. Patrick believed 3-leaf clovers had the power to heal and use them to cure the sick. B, St. Patrick used the shamrock to explain the Holy Trinity. C, the shamrock came to symbolize St. Patrick's uniting of France, Britain, and Ireland in peace under Catholicism. Or D, none of the above.
The Holy Trinity.
It is the Holy Trinity. Very good. Yeah, St. Patrick was said to have used the 3-leaf clover to demonstrate the Holy Trinity to potential converts. So Father, Son, Holy Ghost. All right, so you're doing very well. 3 out of 4. Last question. Which city has had a huge St. Patrick's Day parade and celebration since 1813? Is it Savannah, Georgia, Cleveland, Ohio, San Francisco, or I think your original hometown, New Orleans?
Savannah?
It is Savannah. You're doing awesome. Yeah, 4 out of 5. Very good. Apparently, the southern town of Savannah is home to a large Irish American population, and it throws one of the biggest annual celebrations in the country. Anyone out there go to a St. Patrick's Day parade? Anyone? Anyone? Anil says,
I did. You saw me yesterday.
you were at one, right?
I was there.
All right.
Yeah.
So this is a little Dropkick Murphys here. Let's play us out. All right. So you did awesome. That was very, very good. I'm going to take my mask off real quick, and you took yours off. We will be back to that for better or worse. Here we go. All right. So let's jump into this. I want to jump into, we talked about this in the pre-interview about, I don't want to ask questions about you being a female orthodontist just to ask the questions, but I ask them because I feel like there are issues that I'm not aware of and that other people are not aware of. And so I feel like it's part of who you are. It's certainly not in any way your most defining characteristic, but I'm going to ask it anyway. So I want to know kind of what challenges you faced as a female doctor, and also maybe what advantages, because I think there's clearly both.
So I would say early in my career, it kind of worked against me as far as I was not as relatable to moms. You know, I came in and I was dressed nice for work every day, and it just I didn't have kids, and some moms were like, oh, well, that's easy. You don't have any kids, like you don't understand. And even with staff, I feel like it was a little harder. Like they wanted to be my friend, they wanted to hang out. And then as I've gotten older, and now that I have kids of my own, it makes it much easier to relate to that mom who's saying, oh, I have to have the after school appointment because my kid has all these activities, I can't take off work. And my staff knows I make the comment like, well, yeah, I 100% understand. I have two little kids, and do you think I can shut this whole thing down, like to go to an appointment? No, I can't. Like, it's hard. And so I understand like your struggle, and I understand. So we're here to try and make it as easy and convenient for you as possible. Even conversations when you're talking about compliance with kids, sometimes parents can take it personally. Yep. Like you're personally saying that, oh, like, well, you're not doing a great job being a parent with your kid because they're not brushing their teeth. And I can just have that conversation of like, look, your mom has a lot going on. She has enough to worry about. She does not need to be in the bathroom with you brushing your teeth. Right. As like this, I mean, really, do you think, are you that big of a baby that your mom has to be in there like brushing your teeth for you? And the parents like get it, and they appreciate that it's not like putting that on them. So as I said, as I've gotten older, I feel like it's a better thing. And even with staff, I have a really, really amazing team who, they recognize that I do what they do at home as far as being a mom and taking care of kids. But yet they also recognize that when I come to work that I am kind of overseeing everything as well. So they're doing their jobs, but I'm overseeing like everyone's job. So they're really great about when I'm doing something and they feel like it's not a doctor only task, that they will take it out of my hands and be like, no, we need your brain, like focus on that. You give us that and we'll take care of it. It's because I think they recognize how much I have going on outside the office, that they're really good about making my days in the office go as smoothly as possible. Sure. So that's been a big positive for me, for sure. I know we talked a little bit about my lectures some, when I get up and I go out there and kind of put myself out there, and it's been interesting at times. And I think I had an experience where I gave a lecture all day on a Friday, and afterwards I was taking questions, and this doctor came up to me and he was just like, you came out, and I was like, wow. I was like, if nothing else, at least I get something nice to look at for my Friday. He's like, but then you started talking, and you had really valuable information to offer. And I learned a lot from today. So I just want to say thank you so much, because there's a lot of take homes that I had, and I just kind of like, I didn't even know how to respond. Like, is that a compliment? I don't know. And so you get those things sometimes that it's just kind of like, really? I was nervous enough getting up there, and then, you have to like preface your compliment with something like that. And so, there's those things that happen. But overall, I think that, again, I think it's getting better. And as I've gotten older and I have more confidence, it's definitely not as big of an issue anymore.
Yeah, sure. Well, you told me that story yesterday. That story sucks. That's so awkward and terrible. And there's some part of that person that's trying, I think. And so I think at the very least, hopefully we're all trying to improve and trying to listen more than we talk. And, hopefully these communities, if nothing else, they do allow for that, and to understand people who are different think differently. And, maybe in that way, we're not also inbred in the way that we think and view the world and make assumptions about orthodontists, whether they're female or people of color or young or old or whatever school they went to, that automatically discounts them and their ability to be good, which is just stupid. Yeah. So, all right, getting in a little bit more specific, being a mom, and you said at the very tail end of being a millennial mom, I'm also a millennial. Sorry, everybody who's not a millennial, because you hate us, I'm sure. But tell me a little bit about the challenges of being a millennial mom who works, and maybe your experience there.
Okay. So I'm going to say I am like, depending on where the source you look at, I'm either like the oldest of the millennial moms, or I'm like the youngest of the Gen Xers. Personally, I like to say I'm like Oregon Trail generation. We were exposed to technology growing up, but it wasn't there the whole time. And so I think that, being a millennial mom, basically, I definitely the same age as the moms, the millennial moms who have kids my age. So I would say that time is my most valuable commodity, and that it's really hard to try and juggle my kids' schedules and my work schedule and everything else that goes on in my day-to-day life. And so I instituted an Amazon Prime rule in my life a few years ago. And, you know, you have kids, and I was like, okay, so I'm going to stop by the store on the way home and get diapers. It's not going to be a big deal. I'm going to get them. I don't need to order them online. I have time. It's going to happen. And so I realized, you know, 4 days later when I still didn't have the diapers, I should have just pushed the Amazon Prime button. And my life would have been a lot easier. And so that's where I just kind of instituted that rule in my life of, if there's something that I feel like I don't have time to get to, if I can delegate that or kind of pass that task on, it's definitely going to happen faster than if when I have time to do it. And that's where, I mean, do you let your staff talk on their cell phones during the day? Can they make personal phone calls during the day?
If they have to, yeah. I mean, if it's an emergency.
Like, so if they're like an emergency,
Yeah.
right? But are they on their phone scheduling appointments for things? You know, like just routine answering phone calls? No. Exactly. So like for me, that's I schedule all that for my family, and I don't do that during my work day when I'm with patients.
Yeah.
So when I look at it, and I think if there's a texting option, a chat option, an online scheduling option, that makes my life easier. That makes my life a lot easier, and so that's always what I'm looking for. And so I try and think about how that applies to our patients. And so I think that, you know, a lot of our moms, you know, they always want the after school appointments. You know, they have a hard time with all the activities going on with their kids. And so if we can make things easier and more convenient for them, because I want it to be more convenient, but I'm not willing to sacrifice the quality.
Yeah.
And so that's where I think that there's opportunity in our practices. I mean, what are you doing in your practice as far as that's concerned?
Oh, maybe not as much as you. I will say that I think is the pendulum swing of millennials, is valuing convenience over all else and realizing that the quality is not always there. And so I think even you know, in my life, like you know, we Uber eat everything, but the quality's not always there. You know, it's like been, you know, 20 minutes in some dude's car driving over, and so you start to kind of like reverse that a little bit. And every generation does this. We hate everything about the generation that comes before us, so we go all the, you know, the furthest we can this way. And so I think a lot of these direct to consumer aligner products are convenience gone too far. And so I think that there will be a reversal towards quality. I mean, in terms of like things that we try and do, I mean, obviously I'm a big digital marketing guy, and soft communication, passive communication is huge. I'm big on chats. I'm big on giving people the ability to communicate with us. The reminders are via text and email, and people can message us in and chat in through Messenger. And I mean, things like that on communication, absolutely. Things I can improve on are, you know, making the TC process easier for people. You know, I see patients every 8 weeks. I could probably stretch that a little bit. We do aligners every 10 weeks. I think you may even do every 15 or 13 or whatever it is based on the case. And so
every 12.
Yeah, every 12. So I think there's always, it should be every year as we look at different things. It's like, how can I make this process a lower hurdle for people? I think that's a huge one. You talk about a couple of these things and some of your answers. We're going to skip over a couple questions. You talk about convenience to you as a mom, 6-hour shifts. That's awesome. I won't go into all those details, but what are your two different shifts that you do, just real quickly? You work from what, 7 to 2, or what is it?
So I do an early shift and a late shift. So my late shift is like 12 to 6 p.m. Yeah. And for me, it works out because number one, I feel like it's more convenient hours for patients. And then in my office, we do have 4 doctors working, and we have 1 location. So those like in a 12 to 6 day, that's 3 hours where I'm there without like the 4-ring circus running. So it allows kind of, you know, less confusion, you know, easier flow, and it offers, like I said, more convenient hours. And then I'm also someone who I'm really good at focusing on. I think there's a difference between multitasking and like being able to work on multiple projects at once, right? Like I'm really good at having multiple projects going. I'm not really great. Like when I start multitasking too much, you know, I have those 15 browser windows open at all times. And I'm like, click, 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 click. And I can never even like finish a sentence. So I think by having these days structured this way, it allows me to have the rest of the day as my admin time. Yeah. So that's where I'm focused on, you know, whether it's personal things I'm doing, whether it's things for the office, returning phone calls, working on clin checks, you know, like whatever it is that I'm doing, I have that dedicated time there. then I have my dedicated patient time. And so I really enjoy it. Patients seem to enjoy it. It's, like I said, just because of the extra availability that we have in the schedule, with like I said, the extra lunch hours and extra after school hours. So it's something that I said, I like the, sorry, like thing here. I like the extra concentrated time of just focusing on that one thing versus having like a morning, a whole little lunch break where, what do you get done during lunch break? It's like not enough time to really be productive. And then you're like right back at it and just stretches your whole day out. So anyway, so that it works for me, not for everyone, but it works really well for me. With my schedule, because it allows me to get my admin time in, and then on the days I'm not in the office, I get to actually spend those days with my kids, and not have like my office calling me all the time or worry about admin work.
I love the idea. We do summer hours during the summer. We go 8 to 3 with a very, very short lunch break, and I love it. I also love when they're gone. So I do kind of like the lunch break for the ability to just sort of decompress and take some time. But I love the idea, and I think it's a great thing again to push out to people that maybe aren't familiar with that as an option. Say, why am I doing things this way? I remember meeting someone, I wish I could remember who it was, but they would work 11 weeks on, and then they would take 2 weeks off. And they would do that 4 times a year. And so they get these like long, you can actually do like a European vacation or something like that. And it was just enough to get them kind of fired up to go back at it. So there's different ways to approach it. It doesn't have to be 8 to 5. There's no reason why it should be. And we have that flexibility. I want to ask this quick question, and then we're going to do probably just one St. Patrick's Day question. We're going to do 5 more. We're going to do one, my favorite one. But tell me about TC only exams. This has been a point of conversation for a couple of years now. But tell me how it works for you.
Okay, so one of the things that I really wanted to stress on this is that my practice situation is very unique, right? And I recognize that, and that's where I feel like it's always important to understand, to take away a concept and not a cookbook. That the way I do it is not going to work for everyone else. My practice situation is different and it is unique, but I do think the concept applies across the board. And so, going back to talking about, millennial moms and like the time struggle. And so the way we present it is that you can have a consult for our office, and it's offered as you can come in at your convenience on a day when Dr. Hopkins is not here, and you don't have to wait. It's a faster process. She will review all the information. You'll meet with our TC, and then and then you'll be given the treatment plan like from Dr. Hopkins, but like via the TC. It's always an option to meet with me. Okay, so we present it. Here's your options, and if they do it that way and they say no, we want to meet with her, then they still get to come in and meet with me. If we do it that way and they get the call from the TC and the TC is like they're good to go, then that's great. If they, just feel like that they want the kid to come back and see me, whatever it is, like we always make that an option. But we just make sure that it's offered of like, hey, we want to make this easy for you. Like my life's hard, my life's busy. And if I can do something, as parents, you have 4 kids, like parenting's hard, right? It's a hard thing. And if you miss an appointment, if you miss like a deadline for something, like you should have registered for something, or they were supposed to have had an eval by a certain date and you miss it, you feel bad. Like you feel like you're a bad parent, right? And so if I can do something to make parents' lives easier to where they feel like they're doing what they need to be doing for their kid, they're still receiving the quality of care for their child that their child deserves, but yet do it in a more convenient way, then that's what I want to do. Because I feel like in the long run, that's going to be most beneficial for everyone involved. So it's never, I'm just going to only review your photos and you can't come in the office. Like it's always I'm always available, and you can always talk to me. But if it's more convenient for you to do it this way, this is an option as well.
Well, I think the interesting thing, and this may be true for you as well, is that everyone that I know that has done these no doctor TC exams has had more conversion. So then it begs the question, what are we doing wrong when we go in there? And Anna, my wife, who TCs and fills in, we have one TC, Melissa, who's fantastic, but Anna has done it for ever, like 11, 12 years, whatever. She's very good. And when I go into the room, because she feels free to kind of go in there and start getting it done while I'm doing other stuff. When I go in there, I almost feel like I've kind of like farted in the room. Like it's sort of like everyone's like, what are you doing? And it's like, we've already done this. Like we were about to start, and it's sort of like, come on, go get out of here. And so obviously, like, I'm not saying that means you don't diagnose and treatment plan the case and all that sort of thing, but because I do that on my photos and things outside of the room. So I basically go in the room just to kind of go through the dog and pony show, but it's possible that that's not necessary. And that's not what people want. And they don't want to wait 28 minutes for you to come in and talk to them and spend 12 minutes with you and things like that. So one point of emphasis for me is to continue to empower the TC to have the ability to jump in and to do what they need to do. I always want to meet people if I can, but maybe I need to divorce that from myself too. And then lastly, I would say digital consults and what can we do in terms of, giving people an idea of what this is going to cost from home. I mean, is there a way to do that? Obviously, as things and technology improve. So conversion for you, I think Michael said, what percentage of new patient exams are TC only? Do you have an idea on that?
So again, my set's a little bit different because we do, we pull from TDO recall to do kind of our original recall exam. A lot of that is done through non-doctor time. We give them the option, but a lot of times when they get that first pan and scan and recall, then a lot of times they're not actually meeting with me unless they get a call saying there's a problem, they need to come see me. So it's a little bit hard to just cut that factor. But I would say right now, probably around 20%. We're doing that way. And I see someone put up Zoom links. So sometimes we do, if someone really wants some more information, I can send a video. The other thing I do is I don't ever really use the outcome simulator unless it's a patient where it's something like this and they want to kind of have an idea of what their outcome is going to be. Then I can use the outcome sim and kind of set up their teeth and kind of email that to them when my TC is calling to tell them, what I think the outcome is going to be and what the treatment plan is. That shows that at least I've had my hands on their case and I've looked at it and that I'm aware of what their goals are. So that seems to have really kind of helped, because I said it's really important to maintain that touch, right? You want to make sure they know that, we're still there and we're still behind it. And so that's something that's kind of worked for us really well. To your point about the conversion rates. So, there's a lot of, I always read all the JCO and the CWA and the McGill and Hill, all the practice reports every year. And something that Chris Benson always says that kind of cracks me up a little bit. He said that, Google is the new God, basically, is that if someone's told they have a medical condition, it used to be that they would turn to, they might go and pray and say, what do I do? I have I have to have open heart surgery. I don't know what to do. And now if someone's told me open heart surgery, they're going to pull out their phone and they're going to Google it, right? What to expect with open heart surgery. And so I feel like when patients come in our practice, there's been a lot of research that shows that the millennial moms, 50% of us are going to go to an expert article we Google online, ask a friend, or go to a Facebook group or blog, all right? Only 20% go ask a healthcare professional. Even in my own practice, where most of my referrals are in-house, I'll have people come to me 2 years later and I'll say, so why did you just come to me 2 years later? And well, I read online that I don't need to come see you until my kid's canines are in.
Oh my gosh. Yeah.
And so you have that.
Yeah.
I mean, you have that where so new patient exams are kind of trending down for us as a profession, and conversion rates are going up, but it's because people are coming in after they consulted Dr. Google and their friends and their blogs, and they feel like that's the time that they should be there. That's the time they're ready to start. And so I think that is one of the reasons why, as much as it kind of hurts our egos a little bit, we don't necessarily have to be there. As long as they like our practice, they like our practice culture, they kind of know who we are and they know they're ready to start. And we are looking at it and telling them this is what needs to happen, for your kid to have straight teeth, then, we don't have to actually be in the room and having that 15-minute conversation, which I know is too long, 8 minutes, 7 to 8 minute conversation to convert them.
Well, man, this is such a big conversation. We're going so over, and it's okay. We're just going to keep pushing through. No, it's good. I'm going over. I did 5 questions on St. Patrick's Day. We could have cut that out. That would have been very easy. On this topic, I want to keep talking about it. But I guess I'll push myself past it. It's a huge deal. The TC room is I mean, I won't say everything, but it's a huge part of what we do. So any change to that is always very scary. But I do think that's something we have to improve. We have to make that a shorter period of time.
I can just tell you, as a mom with 2 kids who works, again, if I had the option that someone can send me an email and give me the information, or I can take a picture and send it to them, I'm going to do that, because I can't change my work
as
day,
a dad who's been to probably 3 total doctor's appointments, whereas Anna's been to 74. I hate going, and I hate the period of time where the doctor's not in there and the kids start to like break everything and cause issues. It's like, please come into this room and do your thing. And so it's probably been like I've waited for 3.5 minutes. So when you're making someone wait for like 18 minutes or 20 minutes, or I mean, Landy Chase came to our office, and he's great if you ever want to work with someone on TC, and there's other good ones. But he says that he like measures how long it takes people and how long their consults take, and it was crazy that amount of time. And so he actually wanted me to take longer than what I was taking. I try and do it for about 3 to 5 minutes because I think that's. And anyway, so long conversation. Let's do this real quick. We're gonna do one St. Patrick's Day question. I think what you got 4 out of 5. You were killing it. So here's another.
I mean, I still want that.
Well, you can work for extra. Were you number 1 in your class in dental school? She was. Okay. All right. We're gonna play another song, and I'm gonna put. Here's another St. Patrick's Day thing. Let's see. Yeah, look at that. I didn't know that one was there.
I'm not prepared for that.
Sorry, here I can switch over. Let's see. All right, we're back to this. This is a good one. This is solid. You can't beat this. All right. So let's just ask one question, and this will give the opportunity. If you can get your extra credit back later, then you will have gotten them all correct. Okay. But how many pints of Guinness are consumed on St. Patrick's Day worldwide? How many pints of Guinness are consumed? Man. Is it 5 million, 1.2 million, 13 million, or 32.5 million pints of Guinness? This is on St. Patrick's Day worldwide. 5, 1.5, 13, or 32.5?
13?
Golly, Heather, I understand why you did so well in school. That is correct. Congratulations. 13 million. And what's interesting, there are 5.5 million on an average day. So it's really like not that many more. So just, a little bit over double. So that was our St. Patrick's Day trivia. You did incredible. You may have gotten all 6 out of 6. And so there you go. All right, that's Flogging Molly. Big Flogging Molly fan? No, not really? Okay.
I do like Flogging Molly. Yeah, no.
You say you like all music. Avett Brothers kind of have like a little bit of like a sort of an Irish folk.
I think they had a punk phase. Yeah. They did, like early on, they had a punk phase that I feel like you probably would have been into.
Sure. I do like the band. It's not like they're, top 10 or something, but they're definitely one that I've really listened to and loved. I kind of like lost a little touch with them over the past few years, but having opened for them and knowing them personally, it's one of those things. So
I definitely need your autograph next time
absolutely.
I see you.
So let's do this. We've got a few more questions. We're just going to go ahead and push through. May go a little bit over our hour, and that's okay. One thing you're best known for, and we joked about this, is that there are 2 types of people. There are sort of like head people and there are heart people. There are people that when they come into an interview like this, they want to hear like brass tacks, like details. They want science, and you need to reject the p-value. And then there's people that want to hear about you and things about, how do you feel about this? And I'm probably somewhere in between, more towards the heart side. But on the head side, you're an aligner expert, and I don't feel bad saying that at all. I sat down at dinner with you that night with Kevin and Spencer, and you blew my mind. You're like a savant. It felt like, don't take this the wrong way, but like listen to Rain Man talk about, the People's Court or something. I was like, goodness gracious, like, everything about this. So I guess to kind of like summarize it down, because we could talk aligner mechanics all night. What are maybe 3 common things you feel like that orthodontists fail to understand about aligner mechanics?
Okay, so Rain Man, I have to say that's a new one. I've gotten some.
No, I didn't say you were not like Rain Man. I'm just saying, like, when you talk to someone who's an expert, and you want to talk to me about drums, I would sound like the Rain Man.
You're gonna see my eyes are gonna gloss over here in a minute. I'm gonna get really intense on this. So no, I feel like the number one thing you really have to consider is that we're still an orthodontist, and that 4 systems still apply. I think that's a big mistake people make, and it is hard. I remember when I first started out, you look at it, and it's like teeth floating on the screen. You're like, what the heck is this? Like, what's happening? And you really have to look at it as your final 4 system that you're looking at. In my presentations, people say that my cases look really great, but my ClinChecks look really weird. And that's because you have to think about what your final arch wire looks like in a case. And most times it looks kind of weird. Most time we have some curve in there, some bends in there. So you have to think about what the final 4 system is, the 4 system that you're using with your aligners is. You also have to think about the fact that we have slop in our brackets. Like, we do not get 100% expression of our bracket prescription. If we did, our cases would look a little funky. With aligners, it's the same thing. We're not going to get 100% expression of whatever you see on the screen. And so therefore you want things to look a little funky on the screen because we're not going to fully express that. And people kind of make that mistake a lot. The second thing I would say is that to think about the center of resistance versus the center of rotation, that when you're dealing with brackets and wires, when you put brackets and wires on, you're automatically getting arch development. Like it just happens whether you want it or not. We have a lot of iatrogenic effects, like from brackets and wires. You know, we are gonna round trip, you know, uncontrollably, and then we power chain to get it back. We open bites up, and we have them wear elastics in the anterior. And so with aligners, it's much more like doing lingual orthodontics, where you're gonna be closer to that center of resistance of the tooth. So if you're much more likely to dump a tooth in, it's a lot easier to intrude a tooth. But you have to, like, to get that arch development and to get teeth to procline and to get out there to really get like the pure intrusion that you're wanting and not dump things in lingually, you really have to build that into your clean check. And people make that mistake a lot where it's so, we take it for granted that teeth just are going to go out and we're going to have arch development. I mean, even upright your curve of Wilson, you have to build all that into your clean check. And I feel like that's a big mistake that doctors make as far as especially deep bites go with aligners. And lastly, just anything that you encounter that you would have an issue with if you were doing brackets and wires and an 018 wire with power chain. So think about if you have ever had an assistant or, you know, you've ever like put an 018 power chain on like a night and out wire, how things can kind of bow out on you or how things can kind of, you know, get like this vertical bowing effect in there. And you know, for these posterior open bites, a lot of that has to do with just thinking about what side effects you would see if you were doing aligners with or doing braces with an 018 wire and power chain. So those are the things that you have to be aware of when you're doing it, and the doctors don't always think of. And it, you know, it took me my own trials and tribulations to figure that out. And so I have a lot more. I mean, I could talk for like days and days about that. And so that is something that I do have an online course where I do spend a lot of time talking about my aligner biomechanics. And so if that's something that you're interested in, you know, you can message me and I can tell you more about that. But it's something that I get really excited about and I'm very passionate about because it's something that I think that is going to be more, you're going to see more and more of in the future. And it's just a matter of understanding the differences between the mechanics that we use every day and how it applies to plastic.
Yeah, sure. Great answers. And from that dinner that we had together, there is a lot more that you could say about aligners and really just like stuff that I'm still trying to figure out exactly. I think I'm pretty good with that, but you're on another level. So I'm thankful to have you around. And if you have questions, drop them down below. Usually everyone kind of goes in and as you ask questions, you know, whoever was a guest can kind of respond to that. Obviously you can reach out to Heather directly and the course that you have sounds really cool. Let's skip to this last question. I've seen you post about this recently and this is super interesting. And it's a paradigm shift. You don't strike me as someone who's afraid to do something different. That's true of your practice history, but also just the things you're doing, you're a step ahead. We tried to be a step ahead with 3D printing and it just wasn't there for us. You talked about this in a question we're not going to do, but you say 3 years ago it was fun to have a 3D printer. That was where I was at, but it wasn't really profitable and it wasn't really practical. And I think you and I would both agree in a few years it'll be there. But one thing that is there is iTero scanners or Trio scanners or whatever scanner you have. We have these. They're expensive little tools. And I use them for all my, you know, appliance scans. And I use them for all my aligner scans. But you use them for your patient records, which is pretty awesome. Because obviously, not only does it quicker and probably more comfortable than photos, you would probably say it gives you a little bit more information. It also gets you maybe a step closer to conversion. So kind of walk me through how you do that and what it's been for your practice.
Yeah, so it's one of those things that, you know, I lecture a lot. And so I was always asking my staff to take photos before lectures of every patient that came in. And they would start asking me like, okay, take a scan. It's faster. Can we please just take a scan? And then I got kind of put in a situation where we had like staff member leave and it was a busy week and I needed an extra chair because I was running a records column. And I was just like stressed about it all weekend. I was like, what am I going to do? And it just like came to me. I'm like, we're going to scan. We're just going to scan. No more photos. We're going to scan. You know, I called my TC, called my clinical lead. I'm like, this is what we're doing. Monday morning, we walk in, we're all pumped up. We got the team all pumped up. You know, at the same time in my head, I'm like, I'm not sure if it's going to work, but we're going to go with it. We're going to go with it this week. And if it doesn't work, then we can redirect. And so we went with it. and we've like just never really looked back. You think about what's the worst part of a new patient experience, and it's having the cheek retractors, and having the mirror up in their mouth, and then it's just then you look at having to get those photos, get them cropped, like have them be appropriate. You can see everything. There's no fog. It's a challenging process, and so once we went over to the scan, it not only improved our new patient process, but it cut down on time. And then in my exam, when I come in, I am a really horrible artist, really horrible artist. And I was always drawing like all these pictures of like showing of like what I was going to do with the teeth and like what the problem was. And I was using my hands, or I'm sure you've done it. You like grab the kid's like cheek and like, see this tooth back here?
Yeah,
like,
sure.
Yes. And so by having the scan on there, it allowed me to show like sevens and crossbite, show a palatal impingement, like anything that, I was not artistic enough to draw, I could show in 30 seconds. And so I feel like the level of comprehension from the patients and the parents increased exponentially. And the amount of time that I spent in the TC room decreased by quite a bit as well. So it's been a huge thing for us. I highly recommend it. You can see, you can show the occlusal patterns. You can show they have a dramatic occlusion. There's so much that you can show them that you can't show with photos. And there's just the wow factor of the technology. Yeah. So it was something that I was scared to do. We took the leap, we did it. And then, like you said, it's a kind of paradigm shift. Like once you do something like that, you kind of look around and you're like, you're out of your little box, and you kind of start looking at what else in your practice you can possibly kind of improve and use new systems as far as technology to kind of help you move forward and have a better patient experience.
Sure. Yeah. Do you still take extra oral photos or no?
We do the 3 extra oral photos. The only time we do intraorals is we do if we have a hygiene issue, like at an appointment. But we also now do a progress appointment where everyone before, like there's at a certain point we have preset to get a progress scan, and then extra oral photos and a pan are taken on a day I'm not in the office, and then all that goes into like a queue that I get, and so then I review all those things. And so then a letter gets generated and sent out to the parents. And so that way it helps me keep on track of like making sure everyone's on time with their treatment as well.
That's awesome. Yeah. Very cool. I saw a Trios 4 ad, and none of this is about us promoting companies, right? It's just the reality. I mean, there's Trios and there's iTero that are the 2 biggest ones, obviously.
Yeah. So, again, like whatever scanner you use that works.
But I just saw the Trios 4, and it's like so fast. And granted, it's some dude that's been practicing doing this probably 1,700 times, and so he's got it down. But it was like, I don't even know like a minute and a half or something. It was incredible. So I guess for me, my comfort level would be I'm so used to photos, and I like some of the detail that a photo offers. But whether you're not happy with what the iTero could give you or what the Trios could give you right now, it will be very shortly that there will be what basically looks like a photo, if not better. And so we're not that far off. So it's cool for you to share all that, though.
And even if you really want it to actually have before you start treatment, you could do this for the exam, and then at the bonding appointment, take the actual photos so you have those for your records as well. But then at least that it's not, it helps cut down on the new patient exam time.
And obviously it helps you with conversion. Someone calls in and they say, you know what, I think we're going to go with it. If it's a liner case, it's just, all right, well, we'll send off your scan and we'll get, have you had any fillings or any changes? Nope. Okay, great. We're ready to go. So obviously that makes things a lot more convenient, which fits with what we've said already about millennial moms and just people in general now, is that convenience is such a big thing.
Yeah. And we do an e-contract as well. So then we just had them sign the e-contract. They don't have to come back.
Fantastic. Heather, that was awesome. Lots of good stuff. We are going to jump into the final segment, which is the TDO top 5. I feel like I need a theme song for this. I don't have one. I should write one. I have a banjo downstairs. I was going to play a little banjo, but I decided not to. I'm definitely a drummer on the banjo.
Yeah,
I should have done it. Anyway, so let's get into this. 5 questions that we ask everyone. Number 1, if you weren't an orthodontist, what would you be?
A teacher.
Teacher. Cool. Very cool.
Hands down.
Absolutely. My mom was a teacher. I joke about, if this orthodontist thing does not work out, I will be a teacher. It's either that or like a worship pastor. I think I'd like to be that, but whole nother story. I
think you'd be great at either one.
Thank you very much. So in 2 to 3 words, what's your favorite thing about being an orthodontist?
I feel like it's like putting together a puzzle. I love the fact that every patient's different. I like to think outside the box and kind of look at it and like, okay, how am I going to fit all this together? That's just what's always intrigued me about it and what I enjoy most.
Yeah, I like that. It's funny. I saw this answer as I was reading through this. That is an analogy I have sort of like happened upon the last few months about putting a puzzle together, and you can kind of see on the box what it's going to look like. And I'll say, I know what it's going to look like. It's going to look great. We just have to put the pieces together. People respond to that really well, but it's true in the way that you mean it too, is that it is sort of like this joy of, putting that last puzzle piece in is like one of the greatest feelings on earth. And so I always hold on to a piece so I can be that person when you're doing a puzzle. But there's something cool about getting to do that every day as an orthodontist. I don't actually do that. All right, number 3. What's the one thing you wish?
Sure, you don't.
Occasionally I do that. What's the one thing you wish you had known sooner as a resident?
Yeah, so I think that just learning to own your mistakes. Like I said, when I went to LA and like you look around and it's like, oh, it's just me. Just being able to kind of go through that process of self-awareness and understanding what role you play in things, and recognizing your strengths and weaknesses. And so that's something that I've really worked really hard on, is understanding the areas that I'm good at and understanding the areas that I'm really not very good at, and making sure that I have people on my team that can fill that void. And so I surround myself with people who are good at the things that I'm not good at, and try and really focus on the areas that I have strengths in. And I feel like a lot of people kind of have like a blind spot of like, oh, well, I had no role in that. Like, it's easy to pass the buck on, but then you never really like kind of learn and grow as a person. And so it's not an easy process, but I would say that it's just to own your mistakes, look back. I mean, even the liners, I go back and I look at a case and I'm like, that did not go well, and I'll pull up the ClinChecks and I'll look at it and I'm like,
yeah,
that was on me. Like, that was totally on me. So just being able to do that, I think, is huge, and it's going to help you really kind of improve and go a lot further in life than if you just are constantly like, that wasn't my fault. I don't know. It's that guy over there. So
yeah, I think pride is one of the keys in most failures, and humility is one of the most attractive parts about people, in my opinion. So if someone can be humble, you can be successful and be very humble. But I know plenty of people who are so prideful and they don't even see it. And I'm guilty of that at times for sure. And I think as orthodontists, if you're an orthodontic resident, you've gone through your entire life being told that you're the best. And objectively, you may have been the best at school at every stage of life. And yet it really doesn't mean a whole lot when you get out, and you have to understand that. Also, I would say is that almost everyone I've ever met who's successful is willing to share, and they're willing to admit the things that they've done wrong. And so I think there's a lot of learning that can take place by just asking questions, asking for help, which is an admission that you don't know everything, which is super important. So
yeah. I mean, the only way you learn is like to look at your mistakes and admit that you made them, right? I mean, that's just the only way you're ever going to get better.
Sure. All right. Number 4, who is your biggest influence and why?
So I'd say personally, I'd say my parents. My parents have never made me feel limited. Like, I'm the first female in my family to go to college. I'm the first kind of doctor in my whole family. And no matter what I wanted to learn about, no matter what I wanted to do, my parents took me to the library. They got the books, whatever it was. They always encouraged me to accomplish my goals, and never made me feel like it wasn't possible. Student loans and all, like, bring it on, like, whatever it took, like, they allowed me to believe I could accomplish what I wanted to. And I realized not everyone is in a situation like that. And then, professionally, I would say that it's my experience in LA, just how that shaped me and how much I learned out there. I'd say that was kind of the big influence on my professional career.
Yeah, great. And what do you want to be remembered by in closing?
So I'd say, so you have little kids, so you've seen the movie Coco. And so I mean, end of the day, right? Like, what do we all want? Like, we just want to be remembered. And so I just hope that I can do enough good things and have enough of an impact that when I'm not here anymore, that there are still people who remember that I was.
Yeah.
So
that's great.
Kind of do as much good as you can, and hopefully people out there who love you will remember you when you're not there.
That's fantastic. Love that. There's a really great story that you had in this answer about how your brother used to read the Guinness Book of World Records. My brother, he, among many other things, like would memorize sections of the encyclopedia.
We're out of time.
I know. You said something about, I've realized as I've gotten older that having 30-foot long fingernails is not the meaning of life. And I want to end with that, because that is hilarious. And I might argue with that. I think that's actually a pretty good goal, is to have the longest fingernails. But let's go ahead and clap it out.
Well, fine.
Great job.
I'll try and get 30-foot long fingernails.
Very, very, very good. All right. So I want to thank you, Heather, for coming on the show. It was awesome. I feel like we could do 2 episodes and still have more to talk about. You did fabulous. I learned a ton. I really enjoyed it.
Well, thanks for having me. I appreciate
sure.
it. I really hope that people found some value in it. So again, thanks for having me on. And Happy St. Patty's Day. I'm a little upset I didn't get the filter, but I hope you enjoyed my green hat.
It's okay. If I could have done the filter for both of us, I would have done the filter. And if I could have just given you the filter, I would have done that. We're going to be back. I think it's going to be either next week or the week after with Dr. Brian Anderson. I'm excited to have Brian on the show. Brian is in relapse with me. He's also, I think he started Ortho Pearls, which is incredible. Brian is one of these guys that's always gunning to be better clinically. And he's a super duper nice guy. And he also has a really cool voice. So we're going to have Brian on the show.
So are you guys going to sing though? I need to know, are you guys going to perform?
We are maybe. I should say maybe because maybe people will tune in.
I think
perhaps.
I think it.
Well, Brian and I are the two with the least amount of talent. So if Cole's not on the show, what's the point? No, I'm kidding. Brian and I are both very talented. And so Brian will be on a little bit. As always, you can find the Digital Orthodontist live on Apple Podcasts, wherever podcasts are sold. While you're there, please subscribe, give us a 5-star review. And I want to thank everyone who's tuned in tonight. We had someone from, let's see, where was it? Like somewhere over in Asia. We had someone from Britain, Singapore. Someone was over in Singapore, 11 a.m. in the morning. That's amazing. Barry Glazer, where's the green beer? It is right here, Barry. I got you, Barry. And it's hilarious that he would ask that. So thanks to everyone who tuned in. I want to leave everyone with one more Irish blessing because it's St. Patrick's Day. May your troubles be less and your blessings be more, and nothing but happiness come through your door. And from all of us here at the Digital Orthodontist Live, I'm Dr. Kyle Fagala, signing off. Thanks a lot, everybody.
Thank you.
And thank you, Heather. And we will just pause and smile. Well, I'll just pause and smile. Have a great week. Sunday night, go get some sleep. Kiss your loved ones in the morning. Have a great day at work. Be good to your team. Hope it's an awesome week. Peace. Thanks, everybody.